EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. Getting ready to preview Week 9, a full preview show today of Eagles versus Jaguars coming up this weekend. This Sunday at 4:05, I believe. They flexed it out of the night.
4:05, yeah,
4:05 CBS game. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Football Friday, my man?
Yeah, 4:05 is better than nothing. Prefer 1:05, but we'll do it. We'll do it at 4:05.
We'll take a 4:05. They flexed this out of there. So Eagles Jags coming up this weekend. Jaguars sitting at 2-6. Eagles sitting at 5-2. It's the Doug Peterson contest where Doug will be back in the city of brotherly love, and the Eagles will be wearing their Kelly Green uniforms.
Kelly Green week.
A lot of people love the Kelly Green, Johnny Mac. I put on my Eagle polo today to kind of rep for the team a little bit, even though they don't need more free advertising, for crying out loud. They get enough of it, but I am doing it today. John, first couple things you're thinking about when you think about this game. I know this Jaguars team is beat up, but you know they've kind of been in some closer games than you would expect. They've had a couple blowouts, but they played the Texans pretty close. They played the Packers last week. They lost on a last-second field goal to the Packers, 30-27. I don't want to say they're a sleeper team, but I don't feel like they're maybe as bad as the 2-6 record shows. What do you think, John, coming into this game? Just your first couple thoughts when you think about this Week 9 matchup.
Yeah, I don't think they're I go back to the preseason and Shad Khan had mentioned that this was the most talented team they've ever had. And there were very high expectations in Jacksonville about this particular team. And obviously it's gone awry, and I keep going back to how close and how parity driven this league is. You saw the New York Jets last night. Well, I don't know if you wanted to watch Thursday Night Football, but for those who did, that's a lot of team, me included, thinking, all right, Aaron Rodgers might have one more run in him and might be a special season for the Jets. They have a great defense, yada, yada. They got Hassan Reddick, although it took a while. And things go off the rails. But you see, they jump up and they play really well, and they beat a team everybody thinks is good. It's been, by the way, a little bit of a disappointment for me because I thought they were going to, the Houston Texans, I thought were going to take the next step. But they just seem to be, they're good. They're not great. And it shows you how close this league is. So that's, you put that in your back of the mind with Jacksonville, but they're not healthy. That's the bigger part. Like if they were healthy, I would say, yeah, you got to worry about this game. I'm still picking the Eagles to win the game. If Christian Kirk is playing, if Brian Thomas is playing, if Gabe Davis is playing, if Travis Etienne is healthy and ready to go, that's some good players right there. Quarterback, a little bit of a disappointment from where people expected him to be, but he's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, Trevor Lawrence. And you start to say, yeah, at that point, I'd say this is no gimme. But the team that's coming limping in to Lincoln Financial Field over the weekend, there's a point in the season where you say, no, things aren't working out for us and human nature takes over. I think Jacksonville's there. They trade their left tackles. We talk about who's not going to be there next year, expiring contract, veteran player, but still very competent. Both of their guards are hurt. We'll see if they can play. And how well, if they do play, how well they play. And they're pretty good when they're healthy. Just hasn't worked out for Jacksonville. The one thing I would look at, everybody's on the trap game theme this week. I don't think that exists from a preparation standpoint, but from a human nature standpoint, obviously you have Dallas next and Washington after that.
Right.
And it might be a little bit peek ahead and say, all right, we'll be in good shape for Dallas. So you worry a little bit about that. And I know talking to the players yesterday, the one thing that's still really good, despite the numbers and despite everything, is the edge rushers, Josh Allen, whatever he's calling himself these days, and Trayvon Walker. And you're back again with Fred Johnson. Same thing we talked about last week. Eagles use more max protection than they have in years in Cincinnati. I don't think they're going to do it as much in this game because they have respect for the edge rushers, and I think it's going to be more of the quick throws or attempted quick throws to get the football out. I don't like that. So, I'm starting to morph towards, this team, even when Jordan Mailata is back and Lane Johnson, and they have this incredible luxury and they don't have to worry about that. I still think they should max protect at times because A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are getting open. And if you give Jalen Hurts 4 seconds in the pocket like they did in Cincinnati, that's when you get some special stuff. But you can only do that in max protection situations. And the natural assumption is, well, we don't need to do that. That's an advantage. I don't know if it is an advantage because I don't think this team's as good when they spread it out with a bunch of receivers they don't look at anyway.
I know.
So that's where I am kind of with the offense. But these are all nitpicking. And this team right now is just not prepared to come in here and upset the Eagles, I don't think. That doesn't mean it's going to be a blowout again. That I could see a little bit playing down to the competition, maybe being a little bit more difficult than the Eagles expected. I could see that unfolding, but I can't see them winning the football game, barring a catastrophe in the turnover department, like +3, +4, something like that for Jacksonville. And very unlikely.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll see what happens this weekend. Eagles should be ready to play and should be able to move to 6-2. I want to welcome everybody in this morning on a Football Friday. Love Football Fridays. We got Flexing in there, Mike Fittery, Eduardo, Twiz, Jimmy Wen. What's up, Jimmy? RMP. Mike Fittery, I said you, man. Brian Fleming, good to see you. Joe Wilson. Callie Baby, what's up, Callie? Timothy Walker. Appreciate everybody in here this morning. Keith Johnson, my man Keith. Good to see everybody. Hope you guys are having a nice Friday. Hope everybody had a safe Halloween. I'm not a big Halloween guy at this phase of my life, but maybe when I have some kids in the future, I'll be dressing them up. But other than that, hope everybody had a good, safe Halloween. We will have an open up show today on the preview. So anybody that wants to drop in a super chat, anybody that wants to check into the conversation, we will be taking all of them later in the show, and we will dive deep into what to look for really this weekend and what to make of the Philadelphia Eagles on a 3-game win streak right now. Can they get it to 4? We will do all that. I want to remind everybody also to like the show if you're in there and you enjoy, because it helps us in a big way. We're only at 22 likes, I think Twiz just said. So that's pretty low. We got to get that up there. Appreciate everybody checking in. John, you just mentioned something about the Eagles offense there with the spread offenses. You think we should be running more 12 personnel than we do? I mean, if we're not using the third receiver much anyway, is there a better advantage to this team to get 2 tight ends on the field? Or if it's not 12 personnel, is it, I forget what it's called when you have a running back and a fullback. They went to that look with Van Sumerman. Like, should they be running
21? Yeah.
21, right.
They use a lot of 12 personnel. And now they've only had 2 tight ends up the past couple of weeks, but they've still played pretty significantly, Grant and Jack. So, they use a lot. It's not about the labeling of the players. It's about how they're playing the players. Like if you're having, 5 receivers go out on routes, that's what I'm talking about. Doesn't matter if it's John Dotson, Grant Calcaterra, or that to me is different. You can say, Grant's more effective than Jahan, so play more 2 tight ends, and they do. They play a lot of 12, just from a labeling standpoint. But I'm talking about like Jack Stoll is sticking in, and Nick Sirianni made a big deal out of it on the deep shot to Devontae Smith and him handling Sam Hubbard. I'm talking about how they're playing on the field. And if you're keeping, if you're only putting 2 receivers out into a route, or 3 receivers, 2 receivers, then somebody leaking out late. My mentality is AJ and Devontae, if you give them enough time, are going to get open anyway. And that's who you're obviously focused on. And that kind of worked a lot against Cincinnati. But I don't expect it to be a trend, especially when Jordan gets back. And I don't even expect it to be a trend this week because from people I are talking to, they're very hyper-focused on the edge rushers, as I mentioned. And that means getting the football out a little bit more quickly. Yeah, I don't know if I'm in love with that, but we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, the Eagles have so much talent; they should be able to out-talent this team. But yeah, I liked what I saw with those longer developing routes, and I think it's Jalen Hurts' strength anyway. So why not play into it?
Yeah, let's get into some of this game stuff, John. I think the Eagles have a chance here. I know everybody's been loving the ground game. I have. Me and John have obviously talked about that extensively on the show. But holy mackerel, if you want to look at some numbers on this Jaguars pass defense, everybody, and I know you hear a lot about it. Well, here's the numbers. The Jaguars pass defense, Johnny Mac, listen to these. Completion percentage, opponent 70.4. That's 28th in the league. Yards per pass attempt is 8.1. That's 30th in the league. Passing touchdowns given up, 17. That's tied for worst in the league. Interceptions, 2, tied for 28th in the league. Passing first downs, 108, 31st in the league. Pass plays of 20-plus yards, 34. That's 31st in the league. Opposing passer rating, 111.8. That's 31st in the league. I mean, they are just getting absolutely torched at every angle here. This is a big day for the receivers, and this is the big chance right here, John, to build the lead up early in the game, in the air, in the passing game, and hopefully have a nice, easy second half. Do you think that will happen, Johnny Mac? What do you expect from the passing game this week?
Yeah, I mean, their secondary struggled, to put it mildly, because they have, as I said, on paper, they should be pretty good up front. And the Eagles, as I mentioned, seem to be worried about the edge rushers specifically, but they also have really good linebackers. Now, Olakin's really good. Now he's been banged up. He hasn't played the whole season, but he's very Devin Lloyd is very good as well. But the safeties have been bad, really bad this season. Whether it's Andre Cisco or Darnell Savage or Antonio Johnson, they've all been just terrible. And then the corners haven't been great either. Our old friend Ronald Darby is still playing, still kicking around. Tyson Campbell's gotten back. He was hurt, and he's got some talent, and he's made them a little bit better. But that's your best defensive back. And, Darby's playing more, and Monteric Brown was playing more. Even Jerry and Joe. I mean, they're terrible in the secondary. So, yeah, I mean, on paper, they should be better up front than in the secondary by a wide margin. And that's the way it's played out. I'm sure the Eagles are looking at that. So I know that's going to upset people, but I don't know why it does. I mean, it makes sense to take advantage of the opposing weakness, and the opposing weakness is definitely the secondary.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll see how the Eagles game plan there. A couple other actually good matchups, John, in this game. I know it might be hard to believe as this Jags team almost feels like they're barely limping into this game. I mean, like I said, they had a nail biter loss to a really good team last week versus the Packers, but like you said, they were healthier in that game. So we'll see what they're able to do this week. Some key matchups though, John, is the tackles, Eagles tackles versus those two edge rushers. They got Trayvon Walker and they got Hines Allen. And I think when you bring up Fred Johnson on the left side, I'm not concerned about Lane Johnson, but Fred Johnson has another test this week with their edge rushers. They also have Josh Allen. Is that his name? Hines Allen? Is that what he goes by now? Yeah. They're two good players right there, and that's a tall task, I think, for anybody. What do you see with that matchup?
Yeah, that's what the Eagles are focused on when it comes to game planning is trying to deal with those two particular guys, and it's they are where they are defensively, so I don't want to overstate it, but if somebody's going to beat you, it's probably going to be Allen and Trayvon Walker. So I mean, they're both really gifted. They're both really talented. That's what we talk about. In the NFL, you can talk yourself into things because everybody's got really good players. Well, that's what you're going to talk yourself into if you want to say, oh, the Eagles are going to struggle. They're not going to be able to block Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. I'm with you. I don't worry about Lane against anybody. I do worry about Fred Johnson. Now, I know everybody's going to point out, and that's where the context comes into it. And, they helped him a lot, which is good game planning against Cincinnati. And Cincinnati didn't have the complement that Jacksonville is. So maybe you feel comfortable helping more. On this thing, if it's Allen on that side, if it's Walker on that side, typically it's going to be Allen. But if you're helping too much over there, can Lane hold up? Yeah, probably. But 100% of the time, maybe not. And who knows? You only got to beat, the best edge rushers lose more than they win. It's like baseball almost, Yeah, it's a game of failure. If you hit 300 in baseball, you fail 7 out of 10 times, and you might be going to the Hall of Fame. If one of those happens and you break through and you get the strip sack and it's going the other way, that's how upsets are created and things like that. So the Eagles are very, very focused on Walker and Allen. That's where I think they figure, look, those are the guys who can beat us. And they'll be hyper focused on trying to stop them.
No doubt about it. Josh Allen, I mentioned him. He's a great player. Now, he has 3 sacks this year. But, John, this kind of ties into your conversation about how sacks don't always tell the full story. He had 17.5 sacks last year, which is pretty unbelievable, by the way. 2 forced fumbles and an int. This year he's got 3 sacks, but PFF has him 23 pressures this year, which is 8th in the NFL. So he's still obviously creating a lot of pressure on that outside. It'll be interesting to see. I would imagine he'll be lined up over Fred Johnson most of the game. We'll see how they manage that. That should be a good matchup to see.
Yeah, he's you mentioned he's 7th out of 113 edge defenders in his film grade. So yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And we said the same thing about Trey Hendrickson. So I think everybody's looking at that and saying, well, it was fine against Trey Hendrickson, who's a really good pass rusher as well. This guy's even better. And this guy's got a complement who's much better than what Cincinnati was bringing with Sam Hubbard and Trayvon Walker, who, number 1 pick in the draft a couple of years ago. Hasn't lived up to that billing, but everybody's aware how gifted he is. I'll say that.
No doubt. John, is Brian Thomas playing in this game?
He might. He's limited. Might be a little bit of a gamesmanship by Doug. I I don't know how they handle it down there now. I do know when he first got hurt, they were saying 2 to 4 weeks. He's got some kind of chest injury. And all of a sudden they said, well, maybe he can play. And that sort of like when Kirk went down, because he's going to be out for the season, Christian Kirk, who's a good player. Eagles wanted to sign him, by the way, a couple of years ago. And he got too pricey.
Yeah, remember, John, do you remember that?
Yeah.
He signed and everyone, the whole NFL world exploded, and now he's like the 40th highest paying receiver.
Yeah. And he's a good player. He lived up to it. But he's out. And Gabe Davis is limited as well. He's their third receiver, and he's projected to be out by the guys I was talking to in Jacksonville. So we'll see how that shakes out. I think they might be trying to make the Eagles spread. I don't know how that helps, but we know NFL coaches. And all of a sudden, if you're down to Parker Washington and Tim Jones, that's what you're talking about. If those guys can't go,
the island of misfit toys there, or whatever you want to call them, that's not very good. That's not very good right there.
And Brian Thomas has been great as a rookie.
Yeah, he has. And I would have assumed, like, is Slay going to play or no? You don't think?
I don't think so. Well, no. I mean, he's one of those guys. I saw him in the locker room, but he's not allowed to talk because he's not practicing. And he seems to be moving around pretty well. But I think, this is a situation where, and he's the kind of guy that doesn't need to practice to play. Like some young players, if they miss practice on Wednesday and Thursday, they're not playing. There's some veteran guys that they'll, as long as they get out there on Friday, they'll play. I don't think he's going to play. And part of it is because Jacksonville's so banged up at receiver. I think they're going to be cautious with it. And they think they can persevere without him in this particular game. And maybe it'd be a different case. But, I'm not a doctor. He's walking well. He's got a groin injury. I always talk about those soft tissue injuries with speed players, thoroughbred players, guys who got to run a lot. Those are much more serious than, a groin for an offensive lineman, whereas you can say, all right, he can fight through it. So my early guess is that Slay and Dallas Goedert are going to be ruled out today. But we'll know later this afternoon.
So that could be Isaiah Rodgers going up against Brian Thomas. Could be an interesting matchup there.
Yeah, and Isaiah was talking to Isaiah Wednesday, and he was talking like he was going to be the starter back on Wednesday. Now, it's no guarantee, but it's one of those things where, the players might not even know it, but they're giving away some information. But he's certainly talking like he was going to be the starter.
Yeah, what do you think of that? What do you think of him stepping in and being the starter? Do you think that's a big drop off for the Eagles, or you think?
Well, typically, yeah, but not against Parker Washington and Tim Jones. That's part of the reason why I think the Eagles are going to be cautious.
Yeah, I had an interesting debate yesterday, and I already know what side of this you're going to fall on. Actually, you'll probably laugh at the other side, but I have actually seen it around a little bit. I mean, let's just assume a world where Isaiah Rodgers plays really good football this weekend, whether he's playing versus Parker Washington or not. This team would never think about trading Slay right now, right?
No.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I said as well.
No. I know there's this weird disconnect. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Yeah, no, that ain't happening. So
no, and it shouldn't happen. Not for a team that wants to compete for a Super Bowl. I don't see the reason in it, but people bring it up and then they get infatuated with getting the young guys on the field.
Yeah,
the other thing that's going into it is all the other young guys are playing good right now. And I think people think that just because everybody else is playing good, maybe they'll play good.
And Isaiah's played well in limited reps, and he made the big play last week. And Yeah, I mean, there's a reason Slay is Slay. There's a reason, we talk about how good Quinyon is. Look at the targets Quinyon gets versus what Slay gets.
Yeah,
Just the
teams
number.
still aren't trying Slay.
Exactly.
And by the way, that play he made last week in the end zone versus the Bengals, that was that was as good of a cornerback play as you'll see in the end zone. That ball was in their hands. He muscled that thing out of there. That was a really good play by Slay.
Yeah.
I don't think he got enough credit for that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's still he's still a big time corner in this league. 6-time Pro Bowl selection. In his prime, he's one of the best cover corners in the NFL. I always go back to that Justin Jefferson game where, he completely shut down the best receiver in football. Now, they were letting him be physical, so that's part of it. Sometimes, if you get an officiating staff that's going to be ticky-tack, you probably can't play that way. So everything comes down to game day and what's going on. But, you get players like that who's in a situation where he sees, all right, they're going to let us play. And then bang, you can take advantage of it. He's just a veteran savvy, knows what he's doing, knows how to play. Yeah, I'm amazed at the disconnect between the way he's thought of in that building versus some of the people who think he should be
Yeah, I think a lot of it outside
for
is
nothing.
yeah, I think a lot of it outside is that they're not a huge fan of, the way he
Personality, yeah.
I don't know if it's his personality because I don't think his personality was ever at least it wasn't for me. I mean, I like his personality.
Well,
It's outgoing,
he
but
tends to champion other players.
exactly, and I
They
think
don't
that
like
part
that.
of his
Yeah.
personality rubs fans the wrong way, whether they're right or wrong. It does, and
And they're wrong, by the way. But yeah,
well,
he does tend to
I think they're
champion.
wrong about some of it, but I think it makes sense why people would not want to see you go on Michael Parsons' podcast after you lose a game. That makes sense to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, podcasts didn't exist back in the 70s. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Bill Berge would have been going on.
I don't think so, but maybe.
I don't think so either. But the world has changed, is what I'm trying to say.
It
So
has. It has.
I agree with you, and I always go back to the famous Sports Illustrated cover of Julius Erving strangling Larry Bird, greatest rivalry in sports. And then a few years later, Bass Bohr and Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas kissing each other at midcourt in the NBA Finals. It's a different world. I get why people want them to hate each other, but they don't. The vast majority, and it's just a different generation. They handle things different ways, and a lot of them are friends. Just the way it is.
Yep, no doubt about it. John, let's keep rolling through. I think another really good matchup in this game, and this is one's a little bit more zoomed out, but Vic Fangio versus Doug Peterson, right? I mean, Doug Peterson's the offensive mind over there, and Vic Fangio. These are two dudes who have been around the game for a long time. What do you see when you think about that matchup and how those two might go up against each other? I think Doug is a uphill battle with a depleted lineup,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah, Vic's going to win. But he's going to win. And the biggest reason I love Vic so much is because he's honest, and he'll tell you, it's not me. They're up against it. And guys are playing well. Guys are starting to buy in. Guys are starting to communicate. I go down to that fourth down play. Every time I watch it, I see something different.
the one where Cooper stopped Jamar.
Yeah. And most of it's Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, the more I watch that, the more amazed I am by Cooper DeJean, who's following Jamar Chase in motion. Jamar cuts back the other way, then he goes back, and Cooper is just right there. That was
But if
really
you watch it again, you watch Isaiah Rodgers. We were just talking about Isaiah Rodgers because he gives a hand signal to Cooper DeJean to go over the top because they're trying to run a rub route with the guy who was with Isaiah Rodgers. And Isaiah was able to pick it up and hand signal to Cooper DeJean to scrape over the top, and he got up a little bit more than he probably was going to, and sort of bumped the receiver a little bit, which allowed Cooper to scrape over the top and race around the edge and get to it. Because all you're trying to do there is out leverage the cornerback, and I've seen it. Most people will think about Jerry Rice in that play because it works so much for Jerry. For me, it's Chris Carter because they covered Chris Carter. They used to run that all the time in short yardage, and it's virtually unstoppable if you run it right as an offense, and you have a receiver like Jerry Rice and Chris Carter, but who are just, they're gonna all they're trying to do is get one step and out leverage the guy. And by the way, Jamar Chase, again, the new age, they broke what isn't broken. The whole thing is to get in the flat, not to have looking at it and try to beat somebody in space. You're just trying to out leverage him to get a yard, 2 yards, get in the end zone,
Right.
box him out. That's the way Jerry and Chris did it, and it worked almost 100% of the time. So a little bit offensively, I don't like the way they ran it, but defensively, it was a phenomenal play by a young player. And Isaiah was really smart as well. So for those looking, and I know there's a lot of Isaiah Rodgers fans, give him credit as well. So yeah,
Is that an overhype, or is Isaiah Rodgers a good player? Like, do you see a long-term future with him in Philadelphia? Like, a lot of people think about life after Slay, John, and they're like, and even if not Slay right now, but picture next year or 2 years from now, and they say Quinyon, Cooper, and Isaiah. I don't necessarily see it like that. Now, I might be wrong. There are many people who are high on Isaiah. What do you think his future might be here in the city of brotherly love?
I think it's a really good backup. There's some size issues that will begin to show up if he plays a lot. So, I mean, I think the hope from the Eagles' perspective is it's Mitchell, Ringo, and Cooper. But that depends on the development of Kaylee Ringo. But that's who they want long term to seize that job. In life after Slay, he's got everything you want in an outside corner from a physical perspective. Long, unbelievably fast. Right now, he's way too handsy. You throw him out there for a game right now, he's probably going to get 3 PIs. Way too handsy. And you saw Isaiah Rodgers, and the one thing that Vic Fangio pointed out about the play, the interception, is he didn't panic. That's a big thing for corners. They tend to panic when the ball's in the air, especially young ones. Even when they don't have to, and they get the PIs downfield. He played that perfectly, again, against Jamar Chase, a really good receiver, and obviously had the pass breakup that turned into what Vic labeled as the lollipop for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but really good play by Isaiah. So that's 2 plays where Isaiah was tremendous. So people, expand that to be, well, he'll do that all the time.
Yeah, right.
Maybe he will, but you're talking about a 5'10", and they might be giving him a little bit, 170-pound guy playing outside corner in the NFL. Again, when the Mike Evans show up, what are you going to do? And people say, where are you going to travel? Well, the Eagles don't do that. There's a lot of reasons you don't travel. And by the way, very few teams travel consistently. But there's a few, and there's a few corners. But remember, when you're traveling a corner, that means everybody else has to travel, and they're playing out of their comfort zone. So there's always a domino effect. So you can say, well, Quinyon Mitchell will just handle those guys. And by the way, there's some teams that have multiple big time receivers, and you can't hide people. So Yeah, there's some issues with him size-wise, and that's why everyone said, "Well, maybe he can project to the slot," because you look at him and say, "All right, well, he's gotta be a slot corner." Um, but he's better outside, and but I don't know if it's sustainable with his size.
We'll see what ends up happening there. John, last thing before we get to our first commercial break, and I want to remind everybody, it's November 1st today, everybody. So the start of a new month. Thanksgiving's on the horizon.
Yeah, it's only 80 degrees. It feels like November.
Yeah, what the hell is that about, man? Last night I'm like, what the heck is going on? Normally I'm wearing sweatshirts.
It's like training camp and practice yesterday, by the way.
I know, you were down there, right? Yeah, it was crazy, man. I don't know what the heck's going on with the weather. Richie Mack checks in. He says, 55 days until Christmas. Now, that's an update.
100 days till the Super Bowl, by the way, today.
Is that what it is?
100 days, yes.
Nice. Nice. Very good. Twiz, is your
That's
birthday
somebody
on
tweeted
Christmas?
that out. Don't quote me on that. Somebody, I think Tom Pelissero tweeted that out. So I assume it's correct because Tom is very good.
55 days till Twiz's birthday. Twiz, are you a Christmas birthday guy? We'll see what he has to say about that. Appreciate everybody in the chat. We'll get to some supers or some comments from you guys later on in the show. John, last thing before we get to our first commercial break. Could this be another week for the edge rushers kind of continuing their them getting going? They're playing up against Walker Little and Anton Harrison. Walker Little stepping in for Cam Robinson, who was traded. I think the edge rushers could feast this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know much about Walker Little other than he's a second-round pick. So he probably got some talent, but young offensive linemen tend to struggle. Anton Harrison's not exactly Lane Johnson on the other side. So it should be a good. I just don't think the Eagles have volume guys on the edge right now. So from that perspective, we know what most fans want. They want sacks. So I assume that's the question. And I'm just not sure the Eagles have volume guys. They don't have, like, finishing is a thing when it comes to pass rushers. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Nick Bosa, every year they know how to finish. They don't have that guy. They had that guy. But he's in. He looked pretty good, by the way.
Yeah,
We're
didn't he make a play at the end?
Made a play late. Now I didn't watch the whole game.
I didn't either. I
don't have enough. That's but when I tuned in late, he seemed to be creating some pressure. Hassan Reddick, for those who don't know who we're talking about. Yeah, they don't have that guy. So if people are talking about sacks, which I assume they're talking about sacks, I don't think you're having a big. I just don't think that's the way the Eagles are built right now.
We'll see what ends up happening there. I do think the Eagles edge rushers have a chance, but I see what you're saying. I think no one's getting closer though, John. What do you think? What do you think of what you've seen from him?
Closer to what? Closer to being a solid rotational player, or closer to being TJ Watt?
Well, he's not going to be TJ Watt. I mean, stop that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. People are talking about volume sacks. I'm saying, yeah, he's getting closer to being a rotational guy you can count on. Who,
what about a Hassan Reddick? Closer to that?
No.
Not even close.
No. I mean, boy, people want to make big leaps. Hassan was pretty good.
I just mean like a player that is going to get you something every game, basically, or at least create pressure, or at least be a presence on the football field at the edge. I don't necessarily mean 18 sacks because that's what Hassan got or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think he's turning into a solid rotational player.
There's that word again.
I mean, let's look at it. I'll pull it up real quick. Week 1, 14 pass rushing opportunities. Week 2, 11 Week 3 was down to 3 when he was struggling. Tampa Bay 15, Cleveland 7, and then the past 2 weeks where they're winning and they have more pass rushing opportunities, 15 and 14. You know, what? I mean, what's he going to do with 15 rushes? Is he going to get 5 sacks? I mean, what are people looking for? I guess is my. Right now, he's a rotational player and he's getting better. He's got to get up to Josh Sweat levels of playing time to even have a chance to be what I think you're trying to allude to. And correct me if I'm wrong. You got to play more, number one.
Yeah.
And you got to earn that playing time. Right now, he's earned his playing time to be 3-4, right, with Bryce Huff, which is a disaster for the Eagles, to be honest, because Bryce is supposed to be the guy, and he's not. But, yeah, so, I mean, can he get a sack a game if Jalen Carter's going nuts or, creating interior pressure? Sure, But is he going to, there's only so meaningful you can be with 15 opportunities. So, he's got to get to the point where he's playing more before any of that can happen.
Good stuff there, John. We'll get to our first commercial break. Appreciate everybody in the chat today. We got a good crowd in here on this Football Friday as we get ready for the Week 9 game versus the Jaguars. 3 straight for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they get the 4 maybe pretty easily. We'll see what they're able to do. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Hit that like button. We'll be back in 3 minutes on Birds 365. But before I do that, let me tell you about the great people at BetUS. You can see the scroll on the bottom of the screen. You can see the promo code up in the middle of your screen there. It's YouTube 150, and it gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposit, so all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at betus.com. That's betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager to help you take some bets. So we appreciate them for sponsoring this 2-hour show here on Birds 365. Go and get your Saquon props in, everybody. Will Saquon get the jersey giveaway this week? We'll talk about that when we get back here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday here on Birds 365 across JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. Drop me a follow on X at Real Zander. That's John McMullen, my co-host, #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow at JF McMullen. Johnny Mac, we're going to do some fun stat projections for this game later. We'll talk about the offense a little bit. Before we get into that, I'd like to talk about the offense just as a whole coming into this game. You know, what's the approach this week, John? We've talked a lot about how it's a week-to-week league, and each opponent kind of gives you a different opportunity to potentially flex a different muscle or to approach it a certain way. What's your expectation with how the Eagles will approach this game from an offensive standpoint?
Ball's coming out quick. You know, as I mentioned, they're very concerned about the Jags edge rushers. And I think they see that as the only deterrent to victory. And, you know, again, strip sacks, hokey plays, so to speak, things you can't predict. And I don't necessarily like that plan, to be honest. And I think they will adjust from there when it doesn't work, and everything will settle down and they'll win the game. But I think that's what you're going to see early, at least. And yeah, I don't like it.
What kind of game do you think for Saquon this week?
Well, I mean, I think you've seen Saquon. It's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
He's gonna be productive. It might be a little bit later for the same reason. And it might be, you know, they're very good linebacker, very good middle linebacker, very good run defender. And it might be 1 yard, you know, 2 yards, 3 yards, negative yard, and then bang, the 55-yard big run. I think that's what he brings to the table pretty consistently. And I do think they'll be up late and they'll be able to close the game a lot. So we'll be having the same discussion next week where correlation is not necessarily causation. And they'll run it 14 out of 16 times in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I think there could be a chance they use Gainwell a little bit more in this game.
Yeah, well, they did last game as well.
Yeah, I think especially though if they get ahead early, like I don't think they're going to look at it like, oh, we have to close it out with Saquon. Let's maybe give him some.
Oh, they closed out with Will Shipley last week.
Yeah, they were up by 20 at that point. But
and there was a lot of Gainwell last week. I think there's that a lot of people under center. They ran it 19 times under center, 21 times under center. 19 of 21 were runs. I believe it was 10 Barkley, and Kenny had 3 or 4, and then Will had 1 or 2. So yeah, they all got involved late. And that's what happens when you win. I got another concussion yesterday, Zander. Boy, because of Baldy's tweet. I blame Baldy. It's like,
here's what I'm going to do, because I get what you're saying, but some of those guys on Baldy's list there, man, they're not just running late in games, John. They're running early in the game.
Yeah, but again, people want to be right too much. Like I got a guy.
I mean, we all want to be right.
I got a guy to bringing up Detroit on the day Jared Goff was named the NFC Offensive Player of the Month, literally yesterday. On the day, bringing up that they threw for 94 yards, whatever it was, and won 52-14. saying that's not an outlier. They do that all the time. On the day he was named the offensive player of the month. And I said, all right, if it's not an outlier, point me to the other game. They scored 52 points with 94 passing yards. I mean, people are nuts. There is one statistic. The game has changed. It's not even the same game from the 70s to the 2024. It's not even the same game. But there was one statistic that has stayed true every single year. Teams that play from the lead run more. Because all it's about is closing the game. Do you see anybody thrown it 15 times when they're up 28 points?
Yeah, no, I get it, but there is a higher rate of running for like a team like Detroit early in games. Like if you pulled the first quarter, I mean, the game they were down 10 to the Vikings. They got back in that game by running. They
got back in that game with one big run. They won the game throwing the football. They got behind late in that game. People forget. And they had to get in field goal range to win the game. They were throwing the football because they were trying to win a game. Jamar Gibbs had a 70-yard run, whatever he had. That was last week. He had a 50-yard run, whatever it was. That's not running. That's an explosive guy making an explosive play. That's not 3 yards in a cloud of dust with David Montgomery. That's a guy exploding with a 50-yard. Same thing with Saquon. If you say, yeah, all right, you have an explosive player and he goes for 70 yards, and then you make a big, oh, they ran the football. Yeah, okay, they ran the football. You're missing the point. You're missing the point. What you're talking about is 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Oh, run it 45 times. Well, you can do that when you're ahead by 3 touchdowns. When you're trying to win a game like Detroit was against Minnesota late, and they got to go down the field in a minute, whatever, to get in field goal range, they did what they did. Success takes what it takes. And they can do anything. That's why they're the best team in football. And I bring it back to on the day, Zander, on the day, Jared Goff, the quarterback, and he's not a running quarterback, was named the NFC Offensive Player of the Month. Oh, they run the ball. Well, yeah, they run the ball very effectively. They also pass the ball very, very effectively. They do whatever they have to do to win a football game, which is where the Eagles want to be and where the Eagles should want to be and where Eagles fans should want them to be. If they have to go win a game, if they have to go from the 5 to getting Jake Elliott in field goal range in a minute with no timeouts, can they do it? I think they can do it. Can they do it consistently like Detroit? I don't know. That I don't know. Detroit can do it. The team that can't, oh, they run the ball. Oh, they pass the ball. Effective, more effective than just about anybody else.
John, I love the running game. I love it. I love the running game.
You at least get my point on the irony of being named the offensive player of the month.
I get all your points. I mean, I don't see it entirely the same way, but I do understand what you're saying for sure. I mean, I think for the sake of your head, though, and for the sake of, you got a game to cover this weekend, we might not want to go back down this route. Johnny Mac's going to walk out of here with a freaking brain bleed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, I think it was the last 2 games the Eagles have run. I think the number it was 14 out of 15 against the Giants. And then I believe it was 14 out of 18, but I got to check that against Cincinnati. I mean, that's just common sense. You got a big lead, you run the ball to get out. Everybody does it. That's what I'm talking about. From 1970 to 1975 to 1980 to 85, never changed. Never will change. That's the one thing that won't change. If you're up late, you're running the ball. I don't know why people can't understand that. So you can make an argument about the running game. I don't have a problem with that. But don't give me these bullshit. Oh, Baltimore leads the league in run. Well, first of all, they have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. So, get Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Philadelphia leads, get Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Number one. That's talent number one. But then don't give me a bunch of successful teams and say, well, they run the ball, so Carolina should run the ball to be good. Doesn't work that way. They're good. That's why they can run the ball. All good teams run the ball more than bad teams because bad teams are always behind. But they better fucking pass it effectively if they want to win a Super Bowl in this era.
I know, but well, okay. I guess we're going to go back into it a little bit. What about the differences in the offense with, like, they brought in a fullback. Jalen went over the middle a lot in the field. You don't attribute. Well, they did. They used Van Sumeren multiple times.
Used him 4 or 5 snaps a game.
Okay, that's still something. That's what I'm saying. You're telling me that there's no changes to the offense.
Well, you're acting like they have Tom Rathman, who's playing, the vast majority of the game. They bring him in late as almost more of a spike in the football type thing. And I love Ben. And I wish, by the way, he wasn't playing fullback only because I think he could be a really good linebacker. But I digress. But I think he got 4 snaps and then 5 snaps.
Jalen thrown over the middle of the field more. They lined up under center more. It was asked about in every press conference this week by all the people who work on the beat with you. Am I seeing things? Am I delusional? Or all those
the quarterback saying, what are you talking about?
Oh, come on. Now Jalen Hurts is under oath up there. Come on, John.
No, but he it was a serious, that's how, when you go back to the famous I didn't write it thing, that's what Jalen does.
I know, but he obviously acknowledged after he said that there is differences looking in the offense. He did. Jeff McClain doubled down on the question.
No, I doubled down on the question, and it's not at all what he said. Not at all what he said. He said it was about the different, by the way, he brought up the different play caller, which I find is ironic because there's so many people who don't believe that Kellen Moore was calling plays. So it was my question that followed up on Jeff's question. He asked Jeff, essentially, what are you talking about? And then Jeff, doubled down with the, no offense, the low-hanging fruit of under center, more play action, running the ball, motion, blah, blah, blah. They do all this stuff anyway. But I digress. Then I doubled down because of what Jalen said. Jalen said, what do you mean? In essence, he's saying, there's nothing different. We're executing better, basically, is what he's trying to say. And so I asked him basically, so when you hear that the offense is different, what do you think about that? Essentially is what I said. And then he went into his Jalen Hurts, and it was a very good answer for Jalen. And he said, you got a lot of moving parts from year to year. Things have changed around here, and you can't expect to be perfect at any point. This is quoting him exactly. Everything is a work in progress. And I think we've done a really good job communicating and having those conversations of figuring out what's the best way of going out there and playing efficient football. Here's the most interesting part, at least to me, and I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, because what you just told me was a hollow answer, nothing about what they're doing
No,
differently.
like I said after the game, when you're capable of doing so many different things, which is what the Eagles are capable of doing, and not a lot of teams are, you deal with trying to do it all, as opposed to when you can root yourself in something, like everybody wants them to root themselves into being a run first team with a $255 million quarterback at 100 minutes. But I digress.
Well,
then adjust when you need to adjust. I think that's just the navigation for us. And he brings it back to the vision. That was the most important part to me. They can do a bunch of different things, and they can. And there's not a lot of teams that can do a bunch of different things. So, everybody wants to expand it to, oh, this is the reason why, versus, again, the correlation versus the causation. What's causing it? What's causing it is the players. Saquon's really good. AJ's really good. Devontae's really good. The offensive line's really good. That's what's causing it. That's what's causing it when they're successful. The correlation of, oh, they ran the ball this many times in blowout games is dumb. I'm sorry. I'm not going to dumb it down anymore. I'm trying to elevate this shit. It's dumb. It's dumb.
Yeah, but the
It's
team
been
is playing
dumb
with
for
more
50 years.
physicality, John. They are. I get you're trying to elevate the conversation. That doesn't, you can't take away what you're blanketly seeing with the eyes when you watch.
I'm not taking it away. I'm saying when you're ahead, but there's going to be a game where they're behind, and people are going to lose their mind when they pick up the box score at the end of the game and they say, well, you ran it this many times against Cincinnati and you didn't run it this many times against insert time. That's what I'm trying to stop. That is about situation. That is about circumstance. That is about what it's about. That's why Nick Sirianni talked about they want to be physical. And that's why I brought up Jack Stoll as a pass protector.
Well, it certainly looks like they've been more physical in the last couple of weeks.
Because they've won.
Is that the only reason, John? You really believe that? It's the only reason?
That's the only reason I believe you're saying that. Are you telling me that Lane Johnson isn't physical each and every week? Are you telling me that Landon Dickerson isn't physical each and every week? Are you
different circumstances put them in different positions to be different levels of physical? What are you talking about? If you run the ball down people's throats, Lane Johnson's going to bully people. If he's in pass protection, he's backing up. It's a different game.
Lane Johnson bullies people. That's why I brought up Jack Stoll bullying Sam Hubbard and pass protection. Lane Johnson bullies people in pass protection all the time. There's a great clip running around where he made this block I've never seen before. He basically did a twirl and got two people. He's extremely physical in pass protection. Extremely physical in pass protection. If you're talking about one kind of physicality, that's not what Nick Sirianni's talking about. I don't know what to tell you people. I really don't.
Did Baldy lie when he said people within the players on the offense didn't like the direction of the offense and spoke up?
No, he wasn't.
And then since that, or in the last couple of weeks, me and every other person that's watched this team says, "Oh, this looks different." But the only reason it looks different is because they had a lead in the game.
Well, the offensive coordinator, yes, that's the only reason.
That's it. There was no different approach. Nothing was different. Other than that, the Eagles executed better. That's it. That's what you're telling me.
They game plan differently for every week. They game plan based on the foe. So it's going to look different each and every week. It's going to look different this week. As I said, somebody was very honest with me yesterday, which they probably shouldn't have been, and mentioned getting the ball out quick because of the concern about the edge rushers. So that's going to be different than this week. If it shakes out that way, and I have no reason to believe he was lying to me because he had no reason to lie to me. So if that's the case, they're game planning differently, as they should, for this week versus last week. So number one, it's always different. It's always different from week to week, unless you have the worst coaching staff in human history, which, some people think they do. I don't. I think they have a very good coaching staff by and large. But to the point of, yes, they're winning football games, so people project it into something that is more than execution. Whereas they're winning football games. Now, part of it early in the season was injuries. We talk about the Tampa Bay game most notably. Yeah, guess what? They're not as good when AJ and Devontae and Lane aren't on the field. And people thought, well, they should do better. Maybe they should do better. But people who think you can replace players like that, all right, I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to look as good. But yes, winning football. Why do you think the cliche is winning cures all ills? Because people think it does.
I know. I just have a hard time believing that the only thing that's changed in the last 3 weeks for this offense is that they executed better. They clearly had a different approach to the game. Take the fourth quarter out of it. They were a more balanced offense all throughout.
Wow,
and why is AJ Brown? Why is AJ Brown getting one-on-one coverage on 4th and 3? Because the defense is stacking the box because we are running all over teams. Saquon Barkley can explode at any moment. Jalen Hurts has been running more. He's got almost 10 carries a game in the last 3 games. Like, we're running, John. It's opening things up. I don't get how that you're disputing that.
Well, I talk to the people who dispute it every day. Almost every day. Number one, I talk to the people who actually do it. Number two, when you talk about first of all, nobody cares about the run on 4th and 3. It's a bad decision to make a go route on 4th and 3. It's a bad decision. It's a low it's a low percentage play.
Yeah, but you get AJ and man.
So you're talking about, again, you're talking about the circumstance. You're happy about the result, which I get. Now, the Eagles are very confident when they get AJ in any man-to-man. They always think it's a good shot because they have so much belief in the player. But overall, it's probably a bad decision. We've had this discussion. You actually agreed with me. And most people understand.
Yeah, well, it was a bad decision to throw 40 or 30.
But the result is great. So most people don't care. And I get that. That's part of it. But if it doesn't work, they'd lose their, living minds. Same play. Same thing. Same play, executed brilliantly. Jalen's throwing the football better. I said, one of the things, the underrated part to me was max protection, which was about Fred Johnson. Wasn't about, there's a difference. There's a difference. They're game planning different for the foe because they don't have Jordan Mailata. They're playing Dre Hendrickson. That's their biggest concern. They use more max protection. I think that plays into the strengths of Jalen Hurts more than the quick game, which I think you're going to see this week. And probably people will get upset if they see the quick. If it does unfold like that, people are going to get upset. But they think they're game planning right, properly, because they're looking at Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. So did things change? Yes. But again, they change every week. So what so many people want him to become, and that's why I brought up Jalen's quote to me, that they want him to be static and they want him to do the same thing against everybody. And that is the quickest way to failure. And that's why I bring up the other Nick Sirianni quote. Success takes what it takes. And that's why I bring up Detroit. You bring up Jamar Gibbs running it for 50 yards when they're down 10-0. I bring up them throwing the football and going down the field in a minute to win the game when they were losing. I don't. Success takes what it takes.
Fair enough. Let's move on. I don't want to stick on this topic too long. Appreciate it. We got a couple super chats, John, we'll get to. And one of them is about the topic, so I'll do that one first. Rashid Mixon says, John, you set the pass up by running and run late to close out. You've said that plenty. That's probably why everyone is talking about with the run.
No, you pass the setup to run in the modern game. That's what's changed in the modern game. But for the most part, league-wide, I'm talking league-wide, trend-wise. Now it used to be run to set up the pass. Now it's pass to set up the run. What hasn't changed at all and will never change is if you're leading late, you're going to run the football. Any team, 1 through 32. If you're leading late by multiple scores, you're going to run to close out the game for the most part. Now, really effective teams like Detroit, if if they're winning by, 2 touchdowns and they have an offensive coordinator with confidence in everything they do, and they go David Montgomery for 1 yard, David Montgomery for 2 yards, excuse me, then they'll throw it on 3rd down and usually convert. So teams, the best teams do everything well. But the theme of the NFL as a whole is now is pass to set up the run, whereas in the old days it would be run to set up the pass. And back in the old days, the cliche was, run the football, play defense, you're going to win, and that was the case. 49ers probably the demarcation line. Bill Walsh 49ers. Now it's about good offense beats good defense. In the modern NFL. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Most of them are rule changes, to be honest. And it's become much more difficult for the defense. But if you have the best offense and you got your A game and you're playing well, you're going to beat the defense. You're going to beat the best defense. It's just the way it is. And it sucks, to be honest. I don't even like it, but that's the way it is.
Understood. I think we're, one of the things too that I think, and I don't want to, I guess, I don't know, maybe we should just move the fuck on. I mean, every single person that I've watched this week, and it doesn't matter who they are.
I don't give a shit if it's 90.9%. I don't give a shit.
You're telling me that former NFL players, former Eagles, from Emmanuel Acho to Shady McCoy to Dan Orlovsky to Marcus, it doesn't matter who it is, to Seth Joyner, it doesn't matter. Every single person.
These are the same dumb bucks that are telling you Jalen Hurts can't play 2 weeks ago. And now everything is copacetic. And you're treating
I don't think any of those people are dumb fucks. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll say it. I don't care, because it's about 2 weeks ago, you have this grandiose, they're the least prepared team in the NFL. And now they're doing everything right. And that's the guy you're hanging your hat on. Feel free, hang your hat.
No, there's not one specific guy. I'm just saying from the general consensus in the entire NFL world is that the Eagles have changed their look up in the last couple of weeks. I get it. You're not ready to go there. That's fine. Let's keep going. AJ Jones checks in. Good morning, fellas. Quick gear shift. What is more likely to happen first this week? Jahan Dotson touchdown or a Quinyon Mitchell interception? I'm taking Quinyon, Johnny Mac. How about you?
I'll take Quinyon in that. They don't even look at Jahan. So.
Yeah, they don't. Man, Quinyon's shown some stuff, AJ. He's been close. He's been close to
he can catch the ball.
It's very evident why Quinyon became a corner and not a wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
Dude doesn't have very good hands.
Obviously, honestly, if you're trying to, play the odds, I'd go Dotson, but just because obviously it's much easier for an offensive player. But this team does not get the third receiver involved. It's multiple bodies now. I mean, you can blame John Dotson. I get it, but they didn't get the ball to Quez. They didn't get the ball to Julio. They didn't get the ball to Alameda. They don't get the ball to anybody. They don't get the ball to Zach. They didn't want to get the ball, but they didn't get the ball to Zach Pascal. He had 1 touchdown. So maybe he gets a Zach Pascal touchdown. They don't get the ball to the third receiver.
No, they don't at all. I think Quinyon has a good chance, though, to maybe get something going. I mean, he's played really well, really good football. It's very encouraging to see. And Martine, you dropped us 2, man. Appreciate it. We'll get to both of them right now. And Martine says, any update on Albert O being activated? I did not expect to talk about him today, John.
Albert O.
I saw he got in full practices this week. Good game to slide him in with Goddard out. Always intrigued by him. And Martine says, Johnny Mac.
I don't know. I think they're trying to trade Alberto. They started his practice window on the 16th, October 16th. So you got 21 days. So 15 plus, so November 6th or November 6th or 7th is the deadline for them to put him on the 53, or he's lost for the season back to injured reserve. They didn't put Dallas Goedert on injured reserve. This will be the third game he misses. That indicates to me they believe he will be back for Dallas for Dallas. And at that point, you have Dallas and you have obviously Grant Calcaterra playing at a pretty high level. He's been one of the, I think, really good stories. Last year when they lost Dallas, they got nothing from their tight ends, and Grant's doing a really good job. And Jack
Grant's
Stoll's
been great, man. Grant's been honestly a lot better than I was expecting, and he's been okay, John, at blocking. I mean, I know he's not great; it's not his forte, but he hasn't been a liability. I would say. You agree with that or no?
No, I think he's been really good.
Yeah, I mean,
right, over 15 yards a catch. Now, a lot of it is, nobody pays attention to him, but nobody paid attention to him last year either, and he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And when Dallas was out, they barely got it. And Jack Stoll's great in his role. Again, Nick bringing up the pass blocking and his physicality there. And he's a great blocker, which Alberto is not. So, but you're not keeping 4 tight ends. So I don't see the spot for him other than this is another one of those guys Howie acquired and doesn't want to give him up for nothing. I just don't see.
I don't get what we're waiting for then. Like give him a chance or move on. Like
that's why I thought they were going to move on. Now he got legitimately hurt.
Yeah, right.
Had a core muscle thing. I thought they were going to move on at the cut to 53, but he was hurt. And now I think he's just trying to get something for him. There's no spot for him. You're not going to keep 4 tight ends. You're not. And he's not taking Jack's place. He's not taking Grant's place, obviously, and he's certainly not taking Dallas's place. And Dallas is going to be back. So you're going to activate him for 1 week. Remember, Dallas is still on the 53. He's not on injured reserve. So yeah, I don't see it.
Good stuff there from Martin. He dropped in another one here. Martin, thank you, man. Appreciate your support. Appreciate everybody support of the channel. Birds 365 has been killing it. The National Football Show has been killing it. JAKIB Sports has been killing it. For the people who have been here for a couple of years or who have saw the kind of the evolution of JAKIB. The numbers in October were so far above what I would have expected if you told me a year ago, what we looked like today. So I can't thank everybody enough for helping us out, for watching, for staying subscribed, for the likes, the comments, the super chats. Everything means a lot. So thanks, everybody, man. It means a lot to me. And Martine checks in. You guys happen to see what Sproles said about Wentz on McCoy and Djax's podcast? Wentz changing the offense for 18-19, refusing checkdowns and favoring Ertz. Lessons for Hurts about losing a locker room. I didn't see it, Martine. I think it's interesting, John. You were covering the team at that time. Any insight there you can offer?
Yeah, there was a lot of Ertz. There was a lot of disconnect with that locker room. They got Darren and Carson didn't get along. But yeah, I mean, guess what? Losing creates that. Just as winning solves everything, losing creates a lot of issues. And yeah, there was a lot of thought that Carson was favoring Zach Ertz for a lot of reasons. Not only that Zach was really good at the time, the so-called God Squad at the time, very faith-based people, and there were some others in that clique as well. Too many cliques. The running back room as a whole had some issues with Carson, but yeah, I don't think you have to worry about that as much with Jalen Hurts.
No, Jalen doesn't get. I mean, I don't think Jalen gives me any of those vibes that Carson gives. I mean, I didn't hate Carson Wentz. I wasn't a Carson Wentz hater, but
I will say this part.
Yeah. Locker room, why some of that could be divisive. I don't see any of that from Jalen. Now, I'm not inside the room, but that's just from an outside perspective.
I will say this from Carson. Zach Ertz was by far his best target. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I always say Occam's razor. That's what I constantly say. Simplest explanation, usually the right one. He's the best receiver. That's why I went to him.
Yeah, you can't really debate that, our team, right? I mean, if you think about it, now 18 and 19, I think we still had Alshon at that point, right? So we still had a couple guys at that point. But I look at that 20 year. I mean, you tell me Carson Wentz was throwing to Zach Ertz, I'd tell you, yeah, no shit, man. He was throwing to Jalen Reagor and Travis Fulgham. I mean, what did you want him to do? So I would get it from that perspective. Good context there. Martine, thank you, man. Appreciate it. D. Hughes checks in. I like John's point yesterday about max protection. I would like to see more of it sprinkled in the offense. It is a good point, John. Your response to what D. Hughes has to say about getting more of that in the offense.
Well, I think it plays into the strengths of Jalen Hurts. And I think AJ and Devontae are getting open anyway. So I don't think you need 5 people on routes all the time. I think the Eagles get way bogged down on doing that a bunch of times. And I think giving Jalen more time to get those particular receivers who obviously he's, first and foremost looking for in the processing standpoint, I think it would be helpful as a theme. But again, this is kind of my point. It all clicks together. That doesn't mean all the time. That's the part that frustrates me the most. I think people like the Eagles want to run the ball. They want to run it effectively. They don't want to be a run first team. That's all I'm saying. That doesn't work in the modern NFL consistently. Doesn't mean it can't work for a week. And that's where people, well, look at this game. Doesn't mean it. I'm saying if you want to go where you want to go, and the Eagles want to go where we all know they want to go. They want to go where you want them to go. And I'm saying the easiest path, the greatest way to increase your margin of error is to play the way that they want to play. And that is their Jeffrey Lurie set standard. And we all know what that is, or we all should know what that is. I'm not talking about individual games. I'm not talking about circumstance. I'm talking about what Jalen was talking about. We can do everything. And they want to do everything effectively. So what I get frustrated with is the default setting. No, you got to do this because this worked against Cincinnati. They already have, I have it 100% confirmed. They already have a goddamn different game plan this week because it's a different opponent.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't get it. I don't get it. It does not there is no transitive property in this league. And if you're doing the same thing every week, there's an occasional super team like Dallas I always bring up, and 3 running plays and all that stuff, different era, that can just impose their will as Jalen would say. Maybe Detroit is that team this year. Maybe they're the closest to it. But those teams are few and far between. And the Eagles aren't that team right now.
No doubt about it.
They'll develop into it.
D. Hughes, thanks for the super chat, man. There's one comment. Let me see if I can find it that I wanted to get to. It's a good comment. Mike, thanks, man. And thanks for being a member. I see you're a member. Appreciate it, brother. He says, Big Z, we don't hear much about the Birds wide receiver coach. How involved is he in the game plan? And your feedback on him developing the wide receivers. John, what's your thoughts on Aaron Moorhead, the Eagles wide receivers coach? He's been here for at least a few years now.
Yeah, he's Aaron's a big part of the staff, and everybody. To your answer, right? Everybody's involved with game plan. Everybody has a different role. Could be, Jeff Stoutland is the run game coordinator. They have a guy who works on 2-minute offense, a hurry up offense, and everything funnels up to Kellen. Doug used to be very honest. He would tell us who was responsible for each phase. And the Eagles still do it that way. They're not as open about who does what, as Doug would be. So I can't tell you specifically who's responsible for 2-minute and hurry up and 4-minute at the end of the game, but they split all that up amongst the major assistants. So Aaron Moorhead, Jeff Stoutland,
Right.
Jason Michael, who's been an offensive coordinator in the past, Jamal Singleton, et cetera. Kevin Patullo is a big part of it as well. So yeah, everybody's involved with the game plan, and it all funnels up to Kellen Moore, who is responsible for the game plan and has been responsible for the game plan since week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's been calling the plays the entire time.
Good stuff, Mike. Great question, man. Appreciate you. It's a good little conversation that you don't have often, which I like those when we talk about some other stuff on the team. Appreciate everybody in the chat right now. Got a good crowd in here on Football Friday. Bird's getting ready, everybody. I'd like to see you guys drop some score predictions or what you guys think is going to happen this weekend. I did put a poll up over on the community section of our YouTube channel asking for score predictions and what you guys think of this weekend. Feels like an Eagles win to me, everybody. I don't want to get ahead of myself any given Sunday, right? But Doug P coming back to town, maybe he'll be a little extra motivated to get the win, but we'll see. Seems like everybody loves Doug Peterson, John. Even maybe the people that fired his ass might still love him. I'm not really sure.
I think they do. Yeah, it's hey, he did something nobody else has done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I look at, he's a good guy. I think that's one of the things that came up this week is that, he gets fired from here, and he's still trying to help Nick Sirianni, which I think speaks a lot to him as a person, as a first-time coach, trying to give him advice on the terrible Philadelphia media. We're so difficult. You have to give people advice. I'm not sure how much it worked because that first press conference was a fucking disaster, but that was on Zoom. Still back in those days. And Nick
Doug P's first presser there in Jacksonville was not a disaster. It was actually very good. I remember listening to it.
Yeah, well, he had experience at that point. That's part of it. But Nick has done very well. It's amazing. The Eagles obviously put out their game notes and every week. And I always say when now Nick's back in the good graces of everybody. They're no longer the least prepared team in the history of the world, amazingly. So everything's copacetic because they're winning the games, which is just part of it. He knows it. The first guy getting blame is coach or quarterback. Coaching quarterback's always number one and number 1A. So he's aware of that. But in the case of, Nick Sirianni and the head coach of this team, I always said he should just point to the scoreboard. And by that, I should mean the record, obviously. So this stunned me because this is the first time. Obviously, he's for a long time now, he's owned the highest career winning percentage in the Eagles history as the head coach. Right now, he's 39-19, 672, 67% of the fucking games they win. That is second among active coaches, which I knew, behind only Matt LaFleur, who inherited Aaron Rodgers and won like 13-13-13.
I don't know why I thought there was one more that was ahead of Nick that's active. Is it Harbaugh?
No longer. I mean, it could be. It's probably close. It's probably close. But this week he's number 2. Now this is the one that's new that they put up. His winning percentage, again, 672. 13th highest in NFL history. 13th highest in NFL history. Oh, man. 13th highest in NFL history.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's argue with a wall, right? I mean, your fucking results are there, man. Results are there. The guy's fucking a winning coach, everybody. Sorry, a couple F-bombs there. We're getting you know what I need, John?
Too many F-bombs. We got to clean up the show.
You know what I need to get? If anybody, and I'm sure you might not have, John, but for anybody that watches or has ever watched the Pat McAfee show, which is probably the biggest sports show on all of YouTube, now on ESPN. They do a phenomenal job. Great show. But they put up something before the show, John, and they say this show will contain curse words or something.
We gotta put that up.
You know, because that's how people talk in the real world or something. It's pretty funny, but the way they do it is, I guess they put the disclaimer on there. Maybe we should do that. I don't know how many youngsters.
I gotta stop. I gotta stop it. But I get frustrated.
B. Costello, that'd be great. A counter, an F-bomb counter.
Yeah, to that. Well, I got frustrated about things changing. Your narrative. I say it every week. Things change every week, so it's kind of baked in. But to get to the point of Nick as a coach, also when I talk about pointing to the scoreboard, third highest winning percentage in the Sirianni era, behind only Kansas City and Buffalo. So top in the NFC, third highest overall. Since 2022, number 2 in the NFL. Chiefs are 32-9. Eagles are 30-11.
It's amazing, man. It really is.
And people think he's terrible. And look, he's got his faults. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're not grading people against their peers, against their competition, what the hell are we doing? There's one team in the NFL better than the Eagles since 2022. There's 2 teams better than the Eagles since 2021, and none of them are in the NFC. I mean, at what point do you say that's pretty good?
Now, what would you? And I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, because I'm actually I like Nick more than most fans. I would believe. I mean, I never called to fire him when he cursed out the fan base or whatever he did to the fan base. I don't care. That never bothered me. I mean, Eagles fans are, come on, everybody. I'm an Eagles fan. I know that we're tough to deal with.
I'm not an Eagles fan.
I know that we're miserable people sometimes.
But I can recognize he's a good coach.
Yeah, I can recognize his desire to push back. So I like Nick, but let me play devil's advocate. Many would point to roster and organization as being the biggest reason, or one of the bigger reasons, that he has such a good win percentage. What would you say to that?
Well, I think it's baked in. Look, if you have a good winning percentage, it's because you have big time talent. Number one,
players.
Right? Andy Reid has big time talent. Sean McDermott has had big time talent. Those are the 2 teams ahead of him. That's why I use that. You can't win without big time talent. So again, what does that really mean? I don't know. Organization, same thing. Yeah. I mean, you have to have a strong organization. Are you going to win in Jacksonville? Probably not. Are you going to win with the New York Jets? Probably not. Are you going to win with the Washington Commanders with Daniel Snyder? No, We know that. So yeah, but I don't know what that means. Like, yes, you have to have a strong organization.
Yeah, right. You
have to have good talent. So yes, and that's obviously everything is not in a vacuum, and some people don't. And to Nick's credit, Nick was very honest and has been very honest over the years how lucky he was to come into a situation as a first-time head coach with a great offensive line and a great defensive line. Because normally when you're a first-time head coach, you're coming into a bad team and you got to rebuild the roster, and especially on the offensive and defensive line. So he acknowledges how lucky he was. But at some point when you're 39-19, and I said the same thing. Look, I dismissed Matt LaFleur for a number of years because Aaron Rodgers was playing at such a high level.
Right.
And I said, yeah, what does it really mean? I was in that camp. And that's a little bit different because Aaron was playing at an historic level at the time.
Yeah, he was unreal. He had no interceptions. He was playing insane at that time.
But then, Aaron left and he's rebuilding the team, and Jordan Love's very good as well. You still need talent. and he's still winning games. And then Jordan Love gets hurt against the Eagles. He's only out for a couple weeks. He's winning games with Malik Willis.
I know. No, you're right. It's a good point. I mean, good coaches win. They find ways to win, and Nick's done a good job at that. Appreciate everybody in the chat. We'll get to a commercial break here, and then we'll close out the show. Mesmerize says, we need a new segment, F-Bomb Fridays. Well, Mesmerize, last Friday.
We got a bunch of them today.
Last Friday, well, it's funny because remember the same thing happened last Friday. Normally we call Fridays Football Friday, right? I mean, that's pretty universal in the NFL world. You call it Football Friday. Well, somebody last week said it's what did they call it? Fuck it Friday or something last week. So we've continued now 2 straight.
By the way, it is official. It is 100 days until the Super Bowl.
Nice. 100 days away until we are Super Bowl champions, everybody. I'll go there. I will go there.
I'm not going to go there, but
I know John won't go there.
I think they're a very good team, and they have room to grow. So that's where you want to be. They're certainly a playoff team, and they have room to grow. Yeah, and things are going to change every week. Every week, not any kind of revelation. So be careful of the grifters. I went too far by calling them dumb fucks, but I will call them grifters.
I think there's some people out there that are not grifters. Like I get what you're saying, but I don't think everybody has.
Well, they're unaware.
I did think the dumb fucks was too far, but I mean, yeah, you're entitled to say whatever you want. I don't care what you say. But
I'm saying when someone tells you, and I'll leave it up to the fan base. When someone tells you 3 weeks ago that this is the least prepared team in the NFL, and I won't even name names, and then 3 weeks later is talking about how great they are. Is that relevant to you? Whereas I'm telling you, hey, slow down. They're not playing well. It's not the end of the world versus, hey, slow down. They're playing really well. They haven't figured out some kind of formula that doesn't exist.
I get it. You're here and you kept it here. And those people are fire him when he sucks. And they're the greatest Super Bowl team in the world. And when they're good, I get what you're saying.
That's all I'm trying to say. You can make that. People can make their own decision.
Yeah.
If you want to believe that shit, feel free to believe it. But, I mean, to me, I can't go and say, if I say something and then 3 weeks later, and I'm saying that I'm doing a complete 180, that means either I'm a hypocrite or I'm clueless. One or the other. You can pick what it is.
Well, I mean, remember, play does change on the field, so it's going to change. I mean, anybody that talks, John, you get this, but you're good. I mean, you're better at it than most, and you're more objective than most. Anybody that talks sports for a living, I mean, if you're talking,
going to get wrong.
You're going to be wrong, man. Like you're going to say all the time.
What I'm trying to say, but you don't see that hyperbole from me. You don't see that.
No, I give you credit for that. You are not a hyperbole guy at all, and you never have been, and that's why so many people like listening to you. I mean,
36 and 19 versus 39. There's a large sample size with this team, and I already knew they're a good team. It's just a matter of how good they're going to be at the end, and we'll see where it goes. You have never, and in fact, I remember having the discussion about the least prepared thing. Think about what that entails. I said at the time, I'm saying, because it's not just about Nick Sirianni, and that's who is taking a shot at. It's about Vic Fangio. It's about Kellen Moore. It's about the people we just talked about, the Aaron Moorheads, Jason Michaels, Jamal Singh, Jeff Stoutland,
right,
Kevin Patullo, Clint Hurt, who's been a defensive coordinator in this league, Bobby King, who's turned into Vic's right-hand man on defense. Christian Parker is one of the best young defensive back coaches in the NFL. You see what he's doing with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, helping them hit the ground running. Think about what that entails. It was just a dumb statement. I said it was a dumb statement at the time on multiple platforms. And, that one wasn't hard for me to be right on because it was so outrageous and just complete hyperbole. So it was one or the other. And again, people can choose what it is. Hyperbole, grifting for viewers, or cluelessness. I mean, it's one or the other. There's no other options.
Yeah, I hear you. Diego checks in. Check this out, John. I love when people check in like this. Diego says, love from Mexico, Zander. John, thank you for educating all fans. Diego, that's dope, man. Appreciate you watching down there in Mexico. I love when people check in, John, with
Yeah, I like the rare compliments. I'm like anybody else. I like a compliment. I get mostly hate, so I like the
well,
compliments.
yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
here, but this, I got to be honest, and Joe, I love you, man, but this is the one argument I don't like because, and I get it, everybody has, like, John probably wouldn't fall into this category because John is a reporter of the team. John is not a talk show, but Joe says it's all about clicks for some folks. Well, here's my pushback on that. And I get it. There's a fine line that you have to draw, but what is success for football teams? It's winning games. What is success for a school teacher? Being a great school teacher and educating your children. What is success for a truck driver? Being an efficient truck driver, doing your job, showing up. What is success for me, Joe Whipp? Reaching more people, getting more views. Unfortunately, that's the beast. So you have to tote the line of, your credibility and your integrity with that line. But for people who say it's all about clicks, well, yeah, I mean, that's what people need to be successful in their career in this business. That's just the reality of it. I mean, if I say Jalen Hurts, I want him to be a great football player. Well, somebody could look at me and say, well, I want you to be great at being a talk show host on YouTube. Well, how do you measure that? Right? You measure that. That's our metric for success, or one of the biggest ones, Joe. So,
well, and this is, is very difficult for me for a number of reasons. One, when you say stupid shit, you get clicks or viewers or whatever. If it's clicks, I'll use Sports Illustrated. If you go to Eagles on SI, and you should, because Ed Kratz and I cover this team on a daily basis.
Yeah, you guys both do a great job.
But we also have the click aspect, which we don't involve ourselves in. And I specifically had in my deal, I'm not doing that shit because you lose your credibility.
Yeah,
and there will be, especially with all the trade deadline stuff coming up. There's a story up there now, and I'm going to rip my own outlet. I don't care. Oh, the Eagles should pair Dallas Goedert with David Njoku, and that will get many more clicks than if I write about max protection about the Eagles.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
And it is unrealistic, and it is worthless, and people click on it. And that's why it's done.
Yeah, and that's why I said you kind of have to find the line. Like, I try and keep my integrity. I always try and tell people exactly what I think honestly. Whether I'm right or wrong, I have no problem being wrong. I'm not sitting here telling you I'm never going to be wrong. So I do agree that you got to, it's a fine line. And for you, it's much different. You're not typically only quantified by those metrics like I would be, or Cilio would be, or somebody else. But I get what you're saying, John. We got a couple more super chats, man. We blew through the show. I was waiting for another break. Now we got a bunch of super chats. I mean, we'll probably be here till the end. AJ Jones checks in. I found Jacob in May when I got off social media the month before and hear a lot about Jody. Will he be a guest at some point this season? I don't anticipate it, AJ. He was the former host here on Birds 365. So we had Jody for Birds 365. He's been here for about 4.5 years. Jody was 3 and maybe the first 4 years was Jody Mack. So it was Jody Mack and Johnny Mack. And that's what people talk about when they bring up Jody. We love Jody, though. He's a great guy. A legend, obviously, talking sports. A lot of respect for Jody Mack. Jarrell Ray checks in. F that, J-Mac, they dumb. What you said. Eagles will be in New Orleans come February to dethrone Mahomes, baby. Woo! He said he tried to say the F-bomb in the super chat, but YouTube wouldn't let him. He tried to give you an F-bomb.
Good for YouTube. Cleaning it up. They got to clean this
super
up.
Super chat wouldn't let me say dumb fucks.
Yeah. I apologize for the dumb fucks. I went too far, but you get frustrated at some point, but I do get frustrated with the hyperbole that is constantly thrown out there. And I believe, and that's part of it, because I believe some of the people I'm talking about it know better, and they're doing it on purpose, which bothers me. It bothers me.
Yeah, I understand that. Sammy Livingston checks in. Appreciate you, Sammy. I don't know if I've ever seen Sammy in the chat, but it sounds like he's been watching for a while. John, you keep it real, brother. My day is complete when someone says the Eagles need to run more. LOL.
They need to run effectively. They need to run effectively.
I like that. I like that right there. They need to run effectively, no doubt. Appreciate everybody in the chat. We'll take a commercial break now. Appreciate all of you guys. Hit that like button, and when we come back, I'll get a couple stat predictions from John on the great players on offense, maybe even a defensive player, and then we will give you our score predictions for the game. So we will make our predictions for the game. Appreciate everybody. I did see some of you guys drop your predictions. If I can scroll back up and find them, I will load some of them up, or if not, drop them in again, and I'll pull some of them up when we do our predictions as well. So stay tuned, everybody. Birds 365 right back. Before I do that, BetUS. Go check them out. Everybody can see the promo code on your screen right now. It's YouTube 150. And it gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So go check them out. Big thanks to them for sponsoring the show. It's betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday here on Birds 365. Appreciate all of our great viewers today. Appreciate you, Johnny Mac. Good week of content this week. Just about 8 minutes left on the show today, so good stuff. John, let's get into some of these predictions for the game this weekend. And I'll start with wide receiver 1, A.J. Brown. I think it could be a big A.J. day, Johnny Mac. That's just the gut feeling when you think about this Jaguars defense, really a putrid pass defense. Kind of Devontae had a big touchdown last week. They almost seem to go back and forth. I think it's going to be a big A.J. day. I'll set the over-under right at 100 yards. What do you got for A.J.?
Well, I believe he's averaging 102 yards per game, so it's pretty much always an AJ day.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm going over, certainly against this pass defense.
I'm going to go over on AJ. I'll take the over as well. Appreciate everybody here. If you're going over on that, put it in the chat. John, let's go Devontae Smith next. I'll put it at 75 yards. Over under on Devontae Smith.
I think DeMonte's averaging like 65-ish, and that includes the 1 for -2 game. So yeah, I'm going to go comfortably over on that as well against this terrible pass defense.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the only thing that could keep these numbers under is if they blow this team out early and they just don't emphasize keeping everybody on the field for that long, and it's almost a resting second half for these people. But that's
Yeah,
unlikely, huh?
Yeah, that's part of it. Circumstance that I
I
talked
mean, the
about.
last 2 games they've had a chance to kind of
Exactly.
take the
And
break.
they played all the backups over the past 2 games. They put in everybody, which they weren't good about in the 2022 season. And they've been doing it this year. So yeah, they've been subbing guys out, and that's part. And also, again, they're head big. That's going to lower the passing numbers because they're going to run with Kenny Gainwell to get the hell out of there.
We got a super chat. Let me get to that before I keep going. Kenny Sprague, trade for Miles to complement Saquon, like Ajayi and Blunt. I like that. That'll get clicks.
Trade for
Appreciate you
who?
guys.
Miles Sanders?
Yeah.
I thought I heard Miles, and I'm thinking Miles Garrett, which is insane. But yeah, Miles is not coming back. Yeah, Miles Sanders.
No, I don't think so either. Kenny, appreciate it, man. Speaking of them, let's go to Saquon next. I'll set the over-under on yards from scrimmage because that's our jersey giveaway. Over-under 125, Johnny Mac.
Over-under 125. I'm gonna go over.
Yeah, baby.
Go over.
Yeah, we got a jersey for the people this week, according to Johnny Mac. We'll see if it comes
You're
true.
gonna get the one big run, and from there you're almost there. You just need
Yeah, I think a 65-yarder is coming, John. A big run, a 65-yard run this week from Saquon.
Yeah, the only thing that would hurt what hurt the people last week was
taking them out.
Yeah, taking them
You would
out.
have got there last week, if they didn't take them out.
Yeah,
a lot of people were looking for me to make a concession.
A
I said,
mulligan?
"The
No,
rules are
that's
the
not how
rules.
it works.
The
Yeah.
rules are the rules." Jalen Hurts, John, over under. I think I'm going to set the passing number at 250, which might be steep, but I'm factoring in that poor passing defense, and then I'll set the over under on total touchdowns at 2.5, so running and receiving, and I'll set the over under on turnovers at 0.5. So pass yards, over under on touchdowns, and over under on turnovers.
What was the over under on touchdowns?
Touchdowns was 2.5 total, so it can be running too.
That's a big number, boy. He's got, what does he have? 15 touchdowns.
Yeah, so he's right there at 2 a game. Last week he had 4.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it has to do with, Jason Kelce would often say to the running backs, like, hey, if you want touchdowns, you better get in there. Don't get stopped at the 1 or 2 because they're tush pushing it in. So it depends on, how close they are. If Saquon breaks one, that kind of stuff. But 2 and 2.5, you can't be consistent. I'm just playing the odds. I'm going under.
How about the pass yards? 250.
250. I'm going over. Yeah,
all right, I like over on that as well. And then the turnovers, half a turnover.
I'm going over.
Yeah, he's had 3 straight games, no turnover free. Playing the odds there.
I'm going at one strip sack from probably Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen's going to say, don't go Trayvon Walker. I'm not the biggest Trayvon Walker guy. He was pretty good coming out, but,
well, I'll say he's number 1 pick. I
don't think he's been number 1 pick worthy in the NFL.
No, he hasn't. But he's talented.
Yeah, he is. Definitely talented. Caleb Brandon checks in. He says, "Go Birds. Can't wait to see the game plan Sunday." Caleb, we got into it a little bit. So if you want to rewatch the show, I'm not sure if you just got here. Appreciate you, Caleb.
Get ready for the bubble screen.
Love talking to Caleb on the post-game show. He actually, John, you'd like Caleb. He's a very sensible, smart, intelligent football fan. I think Johnny Mac would like talking to Caleb. Caleb, appreciate you, brother. John, score prediction, man. What's your prediction for this game coming into this weekend?
I'm going Eagles 30, Jacksonville 16.
Okay. Mine is a little bit bigger than that, and it may be too big. I might go Eagle Homer, but I'm doing it because I don't see how the Jags are going to score a lot of points this week. Like, I don't see it. How? They're going to run Tank Bigsby? Talk about bully ball. They're going to run Tank Bigsby all day?
Tank Bigsby, yeah. He's not having a bad year, by the way.
No, he's not. He's actually having a great year. He's hard to tackle. He's a good player. I just, he's the only thing. So I have 34-10. 34-10. I know it sounds like a lot, and most NFL games are not that big, and maybe I'm going total homer on this. I don't see how the Jags score a lot of points. I just don't, especially with our defense playing solid now.
They should be the ones, who should, try to win the coin toss, but if they win the coin toss, they should take the football and actually try to
and just
run Tank Bigsby and shorten the game. That's what they should do.
Yeah, because then you take Tank out, you make him irrelevant in the game. That would be a great game plan there. And I have 34 because I believe this passing defense is so weak. I mean, the Eagles put up 37 last week on a pretty weak defense. I think they can get to it, and they might get a couple junkyard touchdowns at the end of the game with Will Shipley.
Never know. They should have had one last week.
That was the logic behind
that was a good call, actually. So, but Will looked good on that run. He looked very good on that run. Yeah,
no doubt. James Jones, John, he's our resident Commander fan. And let me tell you, he's beaten his chest more this year than any year, obviously.
Good for James. I mean,
finally, he's got somebody. I mean, James, finally, you won a game. Congratulations.
He's went through some shit with Daniel Snyder if he's a long-time Commanders fan. So
he says, I should name my dog Zander. James, if you name your dog Zander, I will send you and your kid. That looks like is that your beautiful daughter there in your picture? I will send you and your daughter a Jaden Daniels jersey if you name your dog Zander.
Wow. There you go.
I mean, that's a free jersey.
I'm pretty sure you're not going to name your dog John. It's a little less inventive time when I was growing up. Everybody was named John or Mike or some bullshit like that.
You let me know, James. You make that dog's name. I don't know if you're getting a new dog or what, but new dog comes in. I got to see proof though. I got to see like
how can you prove that?
That I don't know how. I need like a printed name.
Not like a birth certificate's coming out.
No, there's not. So maybe I just set myself up to be.
You set yourself up.
Two jerseys. But no, I trust James Jones. He's been here for a while. He's a Commander fan. He loves the channel, so I got to give him credit for that. Johnny Mac, great show today, man. We're a little over time. What's on the schedule for the Eagles today?
I gotta get down there. I'm out of here. Going to talk to Nick Sirianni practice. Injury reports. I expect Slay and Goddard probably to be ruled out today. Some hope for Slay, but I would say very little. And Jalen Carter, as I projected, Landon Dickerson, they were just managing them. They were back at practice, so. Final practice today, walk through tomorrow, game on Sunday, off the record with Nick Sirianni. So I am out of here. Thanks for listening.
Johnny Mac, great show, man. Get down there safe. We'll talk to you on the pregame show on Sunday, right, brother?
All right. See you.
Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.